So one thing about my son is that early on in the prenatal ultrasounds and stuff, about 13 weeks or whatever sonogram that they do at that point in time, they were measuring the baby's weight and his head circumference and all the things that they do. Well, the ultrasound tech found a spot that they thought that was on his aorta, and they said, "Hey, you need to, we need to watch this. It could be nothing, but there's some tissue there that we want to monitor." So we kind of, it startled us, but we just, it was like we're gonna pray it through, and God's gonna deal with this. And so when he was born, the original plan was for them to just do an X-ray to ensure that there was nothing there. And what ended up happening, because she labored so quickly, the nurse came in, the baby was about to pop out, Sage was about to pop out of his mommy, that they said, stop pushing, don't push yet, because the doctor wasn't there yet. So she was up on the next floor rounding or something. So because she stopped pushing, the baby came back in a little bit, and because of that, she tore a little bit, and he also swallowed some amniotic fluid. She aspirated amniotic fluid. Because he aspirated, um, they ended up having to put him in NICU, neonatal ICU, and he had to stay in the hospital a little bit, a few days extra, because of the higher acuity of his admission. In other words, because he aspirated, had to go into now neonatal ICU instead of just the basic, post postpartum area, or whatever you call it, antepartum, whatever they call it, area. It enabled them to, instead of doing chest ray X-ray, go ahead and do a CT, because he had aspirated and stuff. When they did a CT, they actually were able to see clear images that verified that it wasn't just a piece of tissue. He actually had what was called a pulmonary sequest, where it was extravascularized lung tissue. It wasn't just tissue that, if it wasn't vascularized, that tissue would just, the body typically just dissolves that stuff, and the body just kind of gets rid of it. But because it had blood vessels going to it that was connected to the lung, which they thought originally was the aorta, which is the largest artery in your body, because it was connected in the lung, it was basically a pouch in the lung that the doctor said had a surgeon consulted who was, he was a specialist in fetal surgeries, or surgeries for kids. And so he said, if we don't have a surgery on him right now, you can not have surgery later, but he's going to deal with chronic bouts of pneumonia, because all types of stuff will get in that little pouch, and it will breed bacteria and stuff, and he'll have bouts of pneumonia with it. And so we're praying about whether we should go with surgery or not. And through prayer, we decided, this is what we should do. But we were still kind of apprehensive about it. So, first kid, all the things going on with this. And I'm at my current job trying to finish up before I transition to my new job. I'd already accepted a job in the cath lab. And so, as I am there as a monitor tech, I'm doing my task and I'm joking around with people, as I always normally do. That's just my nature. And I look down the hallway, and probably down this long hallway in this LTAC, long acute care area, there's dialysis nurses that they dialyze these patients that need dialysis in this LTAC. Um, and they go and do that throughout the day. Well, this one dialysis nurse is walking up the hallway towards me. And when I look at her, all of a sudden, God speaks to me and says, I'm about to use this lady to speak directly into your life. And it's like basically as if our screen right now went freeze frame, and you just heard the voice of God instantly there, and everything went black and white. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he got done speaking, everything went back into color, and it's no longer freeze frame. That's what happened at that moment with me. So I'm intrigued. I'm like, whoa, it's crazy. So I'm like, let's see what happens. I'm just gonna, he'll verify himself. And so we begin the small talking stuff when she comes up there. I'm joking with her and stuff. And she didn't know anything about anything going on about my son or anything. She just knew that, the baby was born. And so she was like, "Congratulations, Lars, da, 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 da." And, um, none of the people knew that my son was going to have surgery. They had not knew any of this. So none of it was discussion. I want to make that clear. So she begins to talk to me, and she just randomly, if you will, begins to tell me, "Lars, those kids are so resilient." She said, "My grandson was born, uh, when he was born, at about a few days old, they had to do surgery to remove a little piece of tissue that was connected to his aorta. And they had to do surgery on him. And let me tell you, he's like 10, 11 years old right now. And he is the most athletic kid that there is. And, he just runs around as if he never had anything done. It's just so amazing, how those kids grow and they develop and how resilient they are." And she just said that. And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What? For real?" It was like, the old school, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air moments where it's like something happens and then the audience, you just see them just disconnect from that acting. They look at the audience like,
Yeah, breaking the third
"What?
wall
You serious right
or
now?"
fourth wall.
And then they go back to their
Yeah,
acting, right? It was like one of those moments where I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now? Like, are you serious?" And so I told her, I said, God just spoke directly into God just spoke to me directly through you.